In May 2023, I went on my first ever solo travel trip. Now, this was something that was so amazing, so new to me. I started off in Singapore, then went to Malaysia, and then finished off in Thailand. However, there was a bit of a twist. I decided I was going to let ChatGPT plan my itinerary in Kuala Lumpur. Here's how it went. Day 1. The first day, I was to start off at KLCC Park, which is exactly where I went to just after I landed. The sun was shining, it was beautiful, the vibes were amazing, so I grabbed a fresh juice and went exploring. There were some really nice dolphin water fountains around and a really cool children's water park that was open for anyone to use. In front of the mall, there were also some cool water shows happening. Next, it was prayer time, so I headed to the next thing on my itinerary, which was the JAMEK Mosque. Now, this was something not provided by ChatGPT initially, but I wanted to visit some more mosques, so I asked it to add some mosques in, and this is one that I added in. It was really beautiful inside, and so I decided to stay for a little while and just enjoy the prayers. Now, the first drawback was that I landed in KL in the afternoon, and so it was already a little bit late. This meant that the first day itinerary was way too packed. I headed over to the final stop of the day, which was BUKIT BINTANG. This is the main central area of Kuala Lumpur. The plan was to grab some food from Jalan Alor. Now, this is a street famous for its food. However, one thing I noticed when I got there was the limited availability of halal food. Now, this is quite surprising for Malaysia because Malaysia is a majority Muslim country, and so I would have expected halal food everywhere. But most of these stall owners were Chinese, and so they didn't accommodate for halal food. So I did the next best thing and hired a scooter, went around the city a little bit. I got recommended by some locals to go to Saloma Bridge, so I went there and took some really nice pictures and ended off the day with a nice little Mackies. Day 2. The next day, I got up early and went for a nice chai in the morning and then headed to the first thing on my itinerary, the BATU caves. These are a bunch of caves and cave temples. There were 272 steps to get to the top. The steps were all different colors, which look really nice, and I also had some monkeys join me on the way up. The insides of the caves looked amazing. Limestones carved by nature. So as you can expect, I took a couple of videos and pictures. Next stop on the itinerary, the National Museum. Now, I got talking to one of the workers in the museum and she offered to take me on a tour, so I had an amazing time learning about Malaysia's history, its series of colonizations, and finally its independence. As I finished up on the museum, it was approaching prayer time, so I headed to the next thing on the itinerary, which was the National Mosque of Malaysia. This is probably one of the best mosques I've been to. The mosque was really large, with a massive outdoor courtyard and a really large prayer hall with amazing architecture. After prayer, it started to rain a little bit, and so I chilled in the courtyard for a little while before moving on to my last stop for the afternoon, the Central Market. I grabbed some presents for the family, and then I was really hungry, so I went to go get some food. I went for this amazing beef noodle dish, and here's the final product. Now, I was slumped after climbing all those stairs in the morning, so I went home and took a long nap. This meant I missed the next two activities, which were the Royal Palace and the National Museum. I decided to not let this get in the way and went to finish off the evening with a nice rooftop view. Day 3. The next morning, I woke up nice and early, grabbed a chai, and was off to my first stop, the Kuala Lumpur Tower. It's 421 meters tall and the 7th tallest tower in the world. The views from here were simply breathtaking, with a whole skyline view including the Petronas Twin Towers, which I was to visit later that day. I took a few pictures, took in the view, then skedaddled to the next stop, MERDEKA Square. MERDEKA Square, translated to Independence Square, is commemorated as a special place in Malaysian history. It's where the Union Jack was lowered and the Malaysian flag was raised when Malaysia gained independence in 1957. Just in front of it sat the Sultan Abdul Samad building, which, unknown to me, was a government building, so we weren't allowed in. It was really hot at this point, so I decided to keep moving to the Sultan Abdul Samad JAMEK Mosque. I stayed here for a little while for prayer and then kept moving. The next stop was probably my favorite stop of the entire trip, which says a lot about me. The Islamic Arts Museum of Malaysia. Everything was just so cool here, from the elevators to the sculptures of famous mosques around the world, the rich Islamic history and the variations of Quran, the Mughal Empire, and so much more. The final stop of the day was the Petronas Twin Towers. Unfortunately, it was raining really heavily, and so the view was fairly obstructed. You couldn't see too far out into the city. It was still really nice to walk across the bridge that connects the towers and just observe the inside architecture of the buildings themselves. The next day was my final day in KL. Now again, I only had half a day. It was time to say goodbye. I headed to a restaurant recommended to me by people I met in Singapore, which honestly had the best nasi lemak I've ever had. Now, nasi lemak is a national Malaysian dish. It's a rice and chicken dish, and it's really good. And then I headed to the airport to catch my flight to Langkawi. KL was a really amazing and beautiful city, with many amazing people and lots of attractions to visit. ChatGPT had given me a really good itinerary with lots of things to see and do. I only ended up missing a few activities, and that was probably because of my half days. If I were to give any advice when using it, I would say 3 things. 1. It definitely packs your itinerary to the brim. So if you've got half a day or you haven't got the full day to spare, maybe you just want to take it easy, just be wary of that. 2. Be careful of your dietary requirements. If like me, you eat halal or something else, just be careful of the places you're visiting. 3. ChatGPT is not too aware of the location of activities themselves, so it recommended me the KLCC park on day 1, and it recommended me Petronas Towers on day 3, but if you know KL, you know they are right next to each other, so I could have done them at the same time on the same day. Apart from that, I would definitely recommend using ChatGPT to plan your next trip. Now that's all for today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe, and drop a comment of what you'd like to see next. Thank you for watching.